Syndicated presents Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian.
Hi, he's Shep. I'm Sean. Hi. Shep,
Hi.
there is nothing, and you got to experience this up close and personal. There is nothing, and I mean this in all sincerity, and I'm not being disrespectful to writers, okay? I'm not. There is nothing like spring training coverage. There is nothing like spring training coverage. I always go back the Steve Mariucci era. Who can forget? Oh, never forget.
I was going to say, what about training camp coverage?
That was, if you remember, I called it Camp Happy Times.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't even know what the Legoland song was. You know, everything is awesome if you haven't seen the Legoland movie. But, like, everybody should have been walking around singing that song.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you what, okay? Kenta Maeda has figured it out. Casey Mize is back.
Matt Manning is focused to make the starting rotation.
Here it is. Like this is year what, 5-6 for Matt Manning and the Matt Manning hype train. Kenta Maeda is hitting 92 on the gun, and who can forget the godfather of them all? Miggy is in the greatest shape of his life. I will say that until the day I die. Like when I'm about to pass out, okay, and when like I see the Lord extend his hand to me, and he's like, "Come home, Sean. You were all right. You have to stay in the slums up here in heaven." I'm gonna look at my wife and kids and just go, "I want you all to know I'm in the best shape of my life," and then that's it. Like that. Like honestly, it is. Shep, there is nothing like it. And I don't know. It's a combination of we're all excited for baseball to be back. We're all excited for winter to end. There are all these magical things that come together that just create this stuff every year. And I love every second of it.
Yeah, you can't write about baseball because everybody knows that baseball is quote unquote meaningless.
Yes.
Now, it's very meaningful to some guys. Jace Young's a pretty good example. Casey Mize is a good example. Spencer Torkelson's a really good example. So I wouldn't call it all meaningless, but people aren't going to read, "Hey, you beat the Yankees 4-0. That's great." They want in-depth stories about certain people. And don't kid yourself. Teams are going like this. Sean, this is a good one for you.
Mm-hmm.
Maeda's hitting 92.7 on the gun. Hold on a second. Let me write that down.
Exactly.
Let me go talk to him through an interpreter. Let me go talk to some of the catchers. Maybe I talk to a coach or two. What do you like about Kenta Maeda? Well, I'll tell you what, Sean. He's making a bid. He's made some adjustments. He's changed some things. We see the positive results. That's great. Okay. Now I can fill, 10, 15 inches worth of the necessary column that it requires until I get to, some really juicy stuff. That's what it's about. And you know this too, because you and I were at training camp year after year after year. You're talking about guys who aren't going to make the team, but you know what? I got to fill some space somewhere to give people a little bit of something enjoyable to read. You know what I mean?
That's why, Shep, like, honestly, I want to reiterate, lest one of the beat writers or somebody gets ticked at me, okay? Like, you have a job to do. I get it. Like, seriously. Like, so don't get mad at me. Go, why are you taking a shot and all that crap?
Right.
Shep, you are exactly right. You explained it 100 times better than I could. If somebody's chirping in your ear that these things are happening, okay, you kind of have an obligation to do that. But I learned a long time ago, take about half of what I hear in the spring training and then take about half of that half and then maybe half of that half one more time. And that's what I'm going to buy into. You know, I mean, you might be surprised occasionally.
In the offseason, I mean, let me ask you this.
Yes.
How many articles did you read that Alex Bregman really wants to come here?
Yes.
And then after he makes his decision, why he made his decision, turn down more money and more years during that decision, you get an article about what? Just because he chose Boston doesn't mean he still can't come here someday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, yummy. That's planted by an agent. Good for you. Want to keep the door open as always. And you know what? I got a big one. I got a live one. Print it out.
No, listen, you know what's weird, and I want to ask you because you know my son loves baseball. I mean, he's baseball elite. That's his thing. And so as I'm taking in all this information, and I'm looking at various predictions already, and Pacoda had the Tigers fourth in the division for what it's worth in 79 wins. If you put any merit into Pacoda, Shep, I'm kind of mystified at all the love.
Why would that be, Sean? Why would that be?
I don't know. I don't know. But this is where we'll make it two-part. Am I missing something about the Twins? Did they like have a secret signing that I wasn't aware of? Is there somebody on the horizon that maybe we're not? Because I was talking to Jack about it. What's up with all the Twin love all of a sudden? I don't quite understand it. I could, if you wanted to make an argument that Cleveland was going to repeat, okay. If you wanted to say, Kansas City's ready to take the next step, okay. What I see out of the Twins, I see a golly gee scrappy team that fell apart last year. So what makes me think that they're suddenly going to bounce back up in this division? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. If people are going to say Kansas City's going to take the next step, I suppose you could say the same thing about the Tigers, could you not?
Sure.
I'm a little confused about the Cleveland aspect, only because they got rid of the right side of their infield, including a Gold Glover and a guy who is going to, pace their team in either homers or RBIs, or at least be the first couple. Maybe if he's not the leader on the team, and then he's the second biggest leader. Obviously Carlos Correa with Minnesota. They signed Ty France from Seattle. I don't think that necessarily moves your proverbial needle.
Right.
I do like Royce Lewis a lot. So Jose Miranda's got good contact. Minnesota, we're talking about if Byron Buxton can stay healthy. How many times have we heard that? Trevor Larnach's a good player. Matt Wallner's a really good young player. I don't know why they would be chosen ahead of Detroit. Kansas City, I almost understand. Okay,
right.
Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo. They made a trade in the offseason. Brady Singer out. They bring in some talent in that regard. Bobby Witt's the best shortstop in baseball, you could argue. Salvador Perez seems to never get old. Vinny Pasquantino should be healthy. I don't know. You know what maybe this does, though, Sean? What it may do is make us eat a little humble pie, at least for right now, because we think – I think of all the things you always say about linear. It's not nothing in sports is linear. Just because the Lions made the NFC Championship game against San Francisco doesn't mean they're automatically winning it the next year and going to the Super Bowl. We know that, right? Just because the Tigers made the playoffs last year doesn't mean that they're going to contend and win the division this year. I would ask you this. Let's try to be objective as much as we possibly can. And I would ask this of Jack, too, since he loves the Tigers. Where do you think their weakness is? Have they addressed the weakness? What is it about this team you truly believe in, and what scares the hell out of you? I think those are all fair questions.
I think they're all legitimate questions. And I want to go back to what you asked me a couple minutes ago. My feeling on Pacoda, by the way, Tom, good evening. Wings traded Uso. We'll get into that in a second. Alan said, hi, all. Aren't you glad that we signed Andrew Chafin? Why not? Like, honestly, why not at this point in time? You know why I think Pacoda did what they did, Shep? Because the truth is, and nobody wanted to hear it last year, okay? And I think this goes hand in hand with what you were just talking about with the linear thinking. And, 2006 was just the start, and they were going to own the division. We were going to own the Central. And then it took them 5 years to get back. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that that's going to be the case. Yeah. If we're being honest with ourselves, and people would have killed me if I said this last October, how they did it was the perfect storm. That was unsustainable, whether it be with chaos, whether it be simultaneously having the Twins go into a historic freefall, and they did, literally a historic freefall. The way the Tigers did it was insane. It was a near miracle. And I think, if anything, it really does put the focus on a guy that I know you like very well, who, by the way, the MLB Tonight Show on the MLB channel, asked the question the other night, who's the best manager in baseball? And they were all saying AJ Hinch left and right. It was a set of circumstances that came together and gave us a great, wonderful memory. Make no mistake about it. They earned every second of it. That Shep, chances are those things happening like they did last year, it isn't going to work that way again. It's going to be more difficult. And now you have expectations because nobody had expectations last year.
I did. I thought they should and were going to win the division. So
with a month to go, though, when you were at
a month ago, right on.
0.02 chance to make the playoff or whatever. So
so I think what you're asking is, did the late season push where they went 32-11, something like that, Sean?
Mm-hmm.
Did that disguise really who they are?
Yes, I firmly believe it. You cannot.
If that's the case, why do you and I scratch our head on why they're chosen fourth in the division?
I think because I'm going to say this again. I think everybody is kind of blowing up this division a little bit. I do. When you start the season with an extra free 12 wins because the Chicago White Sox exist, I'm sorry. I sit back and I just go, well, okay, maybe this division isn't as good as we all think it is.
I don't know about that. Let me just say why, and then I'll stop because I know you got more to say.
All right.
Could we not say that about the West? And you've got those guaranteed wins against the Angels. Could you not say that about the NL East when you have guaranteed wins against the Marlins or the National League Central in those wins against Pittsburgh, or last year anyway, the National League West when you did that against a Colorado team that lost over 100 games?
I think there's a team that loses over 100 games, and then there's what the White Sox were last year, though. In fairness, I mean that was.
But they're going to be. But they're going to be better. I mean, they're going to be better.
I mean, you can't lose. You can't lose like that again. You can't. No. But Shep, I think part of it is as well, and we have to come to grips with this. I'm sorry, it's cute what Cleveland has done for years, okay, and I give them a tip of the cap. The Cleveland Indians aren't going to win a World Series. It's not going to happen. Not with their model. I'm sorry. Time and time again, it shows. I'm not saying that you have to go spend like the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Red Sox, but you have to do more than certainly what the Indians have done. And so that's why I think the frustration comes twofold, because a lot of people thought that Christopher Ilitch might go out and spend some money. Now, I didn't. There was nothing to make me believe that was going to happen. I said it time and time again. What makes you think that he's going to go out and spend money? But with that being said, I think that's why people are saying, okay, this can be had. This division can be had. I'm not exactly
sure. Is that fair to say? It's viewed as a weak division.
I think it is. I do. I think it is. And I know people don't like to say it because we had 3 teams in the playoff last year, but I think that was a little skewed because of the crap show that was the Chicago White Sox. One man's opinion.
Yeah. Look, I totally understand that. I don't know yet because I'll be honest with you. I thought last year Baltimore was going to be really good. I thought Toronto was going to be really good, and Toronto finished last in the AL East from what I can recall. I thought there were certain teams that were going to be tough to beat. I thought Milwaukee would take a step down, and they had one of the best records in all of baseball.
Yep.
So I don't know right now. I think in each of these teams, Minnesota, Kansas City, Cleveland, and Detroit, they can literally be one injury from one player away from being really bad.
Yep.
If Kansas City loses Bobby Witt Jr., they're screwed. If
bye.
Cleveland loses Jose Ramirez, they are screwed. If Detroit loses a Riley Green or a Tarek Skubal, take the pitchers out of it, because Cole Reagans was really good for Kansas City last year. Some would call him a number 1 starter, maybe even an ace. I'm not sure if I'd go quite that far, but take the pitchers out of it, because if you lose your top guy, anybody's going to really struggle. But if you take your best player overall, you're in deep trouble. I don't know who that is from Minnesota, because as much as I like Byron Buxton, I think he's a good player. He's a really good dude. hell of an athlete, but he's not very reliable, right? So, but the other three teams, you're screwed. Other teams can make up for that.
Yeah.
Other really good teams in baseball can make up for it.
Alan asked a really good question. I want to get your take because I don't think you and I talked about it last week. My mind was blown at some of the comments from Spencer Torkelson. I'm not going to lie. Shep, you've talked to him many times. You know him better than I. I just thought it was a bad look, and I want to get your opinion on it. Todd said, Tigers' weaknesses, hitting, fielding, but we've got the MLB's first all-season seats in the home plate club. It's 21% wider than a normal seat, has 1 foot of additional legroom, and heating and cooling with Thermavance technology. Our infield's awful, by the way.
The outfield defense, I think, is good.
Yeah, the infield's awful. Hey, let me tell you about our friends at the Wealth Advantage Group. I ran into Mike Cusack over the weekend at a hockey game. His nephew, pretty darn good player, Easton Cusack. If you are ready to take charge of your financial future, look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville, owned by those guys right there, Mike Cusack on the left, Jeff Cusack on the right. They've got over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. And that's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, you're getting ready to sell your company, you're already in retirement, it doesn't matter. Folks, these guys are going to help you the same way they've helped my family for a long, long time now. They work with clients throughout all stages of life. They have clients in over 20 different states. The investment world is a complex one. But if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, it's time to work with the experts. They're great guys. They're great at what they do. Reach out to my friends at the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574. Check out their website at www.thewealthadv.com. Bill said, chafing back to the Tigers. Welcome home, Big Perm. I hope it works. Why not? It's that's the way it is. Alan said, I would love to know.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Why not? It doesn't cost anything, right?
I don't get it.
You don't like it?
I guess. I just have been there, done that. I mean, at what point? For me, it's time to move on. But
okay,
whatever. You're right. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just, how did you start the show? It's about writing these articles, right? And for me, it's like, oh my God, am I going to have to read more about Andrew Chafin and how crazy he is and how cool he is? I've had enough. But anyway, go ahead, bud.
All right. So Spencer Torkelson, I'm sure you saw the story last week. The Tigers have invested in all this modern technology and, swing simulators and studying things. And Spencer Torkelson basically said, that's not for me. I've been doing this a long time. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm looking for and everything. Shep, I think it's incredibly tone deaf. Even if he feels that way, he should probably just say to everybody, yes, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be the player that I know I can be. And I remember a couple of years ago, and I said this to you, Gibby never gave up on him. Gibby never gave up on him. And
Neither did Jim Leland. Jim Leland.
And Gibby made a point to say, you know what? A lot of times with a young player, let him go down. Let's see what he does when he come back. And we know what he did. Unfortunately, that is a very small exception to a much larger rule. When I heard his comments, Shep, it wasn't even disappointed. It was mind was blown. Like, really, at this point in time, when this franchise is basically telling you, you're pretty close to your last chance. Even mix in a lie and say, yeah, what do you guys want me to do? Yep. You go study my swing. I'll go through every gosh damn. You know what he sounded like, Shep? He sounded like one of us when our kids try to show us technology. I don't need that modern technology. All I need is my remote and a battery. And if my batteries don't work, you're going to be my remote. Get your ass up that couch and go turn my channel. He turned into a 55-year-old dude.
Well, okay. So did you hear him or did you read the comments?
I read the comment. I did read the comment.
So when somebody like Eric says, absolutely, it was very arrogant. I don't know how you take it arrogant when it's a quote. All right. I think arrogance really comes in how it's delivered. And he is not an arrogant person. Here's what I would ask you.
All right.
Last year, you and I had this conversation. So I'm interested to hear if you recall what you said. Actually, I'm just going to tell you what you said.
Okay.
What you said was, he looks like he's thinking too much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If all that technology and you start thinking about stuff. I don't care if you play golf, you do that. Okay, I watch so many videos. Is my left arm stiff? Am I bringing it back too far? Am I moving my hips? All these different things. It's paralysis by analysis, and that's what a lot of people said about him last year, that he was thinking way too much. If that's the case, which the consensus was that,
I agree.
then why in the world is it a bad thing for him to say, that's not for me? Because all it does is confuse him a little bit. So that's number one. So
Okay.
think about that for a second.
All right, I will.
Here's number two. We don't know who he is yet. And I know people want to go, oh, I know who he is. Last year, hold on a second. I'm not saying he's a high WAR player, because he's not. The highest WAR he's ever been is a .08. But he's had 3 years in this league. And the first year he was rushed, and it was, not a great year, obviously. The next year, his middle season, he had 31 bombs and he had 94 RBIs. He didn't get on base like you should. He probably struck out too much, but that's the way the game is these days. Unfortunately,
Sure.
I don't like it. You don't like it. But
It's
that's
real.
the way it is.
Yep.
Yeah. So when I tell you 31 homers, I mean, he was top 25 in baseball in home runs that year. He ranked 22nd. And I want you to remember this. When you and I talk about the Tigers, what do you tell me? They miss a right-handed power bat.
Big time.
Okay.
Big time.
So if you would concur with me that he was rushed with Riley Green, both were rushed, I want to throw the first year out. His second year, you'd take 31 and 94. You'd like more homers because of the number of at-bats he had. I think the number of at-bats he had was 600 at-bats, okay? And if that's the case, close to 700. You'd think you'd have more than 31 homers. Last year, really bad, obviously. Sent down. I can remind you of a number of players who have been sent down to the minor leagues in a lot of sports, all right? He's 25, man. He's 25 years old. And people think they already know who he is. And people think that he's done or that he's on his last leg. I would love to know. And I think he's got to earn his place on this team. I didn't have a problem with them sending him down last year. But I would love to know how many people at the age of 25 knew exactly how good they were going to be in their craft. That's what I'd love to know. Because I think most of us, don't tell me you weren't better when you got older as a talk show host or a play-by-play guy or anything, the more reps you got. Now, he's had a lot of reps. So I'm not sticking up for him in that regard. I am not in the habit of giving up on 25-year-olds who have right-handed power, and especially in that ballpark.
Here's the thing, Shep, and I'm with you. I'm not saying throw him out. I'm not, okay? But you and I have both been in positions in this business, if we're being honest, okay? You're a shoot straight guy. I think that's why you and I have always gotten along. You're a shoot straight guy. I would like to think that I'm a shoot straight guy. Unfortunately, sometimes in our business, you can't be a shoot straight guy. You can't. Like, there have been people that I've worked with, in particular in my last job. I would love to tell you what an asshole that man was. I would love to tell you, but I'm going to take the high road. Okay. Gee, I wonder who I'm talking about. So you know what? Instead, I'm going to take the high road. I'm just going to, give tip of the cap, move about your day. My point is, especially when your general manager is coming out, or Scott Harris, president, when your president is coming out, basically saying that you're going to have to earn everything that you do. Shep, you know what? Sometimes you just say, you know what you do? You just go, whatever they need me to do, man. I want to figure this out as much as anybody else. Not I'm going to dismiss this. Not, that stuff's not for me. Sometimes it's okay to just say, hey, you know what? I'm willing to do whatever it takes, man. I want to figure this out more than you guys want me to figure this out. I know what I can do. I know what kind of player I am. I love this room. I want to be here. What do I need to do to be here? You know what I mean? I don't. Rub me and a lot of people the wrong way.
Yeah, for me, talk is just really cheap. I mean, he's got to prove it. It doesn't matter what he says. It's the same thing with fans who go, I want guys who want to be here. Please. You want players. You want players who are going to perform. Don't give me
I
that
agree with
crap.
that.
I want guys who want to be here. Otherwise, if that were the case, you'd be loving Matthew Stafford still to this day. Stop with that, okay? Stop with the emotion that's going to make you feel good, okay? I don't care what he says. And by the way, at the end of last year, when everybody was asking him about it, that's what he said in so many words. I want to be here. I'm going to figure it out. I believe in myself, all those things. He said it. So now we got to hear it again in spring training. I don't care. What I want to do is I want to see him in the batter's box. I want to see him hit homers to left, homers to right center. I want to see him play good first base. I want to see him make strong, hard contact. I want to see no more swings and misses. Those are the things I want to see from him. I don't care what he tells the media. It doesn't matter to me.
I'm sorry. When you say hard contact, it took me to a dark place. Remember Charles Brandon Inge in the late in his career? He's hitting the ball really hard. Well, that's great, Jimbo. Please get his ass out of here. Thanks. Do you remember that whole scene?
I do.
You guys are every game he's hitting the ball hard. Oh, golly gee. Oh, I'm so done with it.
Now, I would say this, and this is fair. I'm not telling Bill he's wrong. He said he's had the requisite amount of MLB at bats. Shep, come on. Okay. Here's what I would ask you: how many ABs are required for Bill to come to that conclusion? What's the number? That's what I'd like to know. What's the number you have to see from him? And I don't want to come off like I'm making excuses for him, because I'm not. I'm just trying to explain some things. Tell me what the requisite number of at-bats in the major leagues is. Because some people would tell you, that the requisite is 1,500 at-bats. Okay? Now, I would remind you this. Again, it comes off like I'm making excuses, and I'm trying not to, but I'm just trying to explain something. I say that he's been rushed, okay? Do you know how many at-bats he had? Do you know how many at-bats he had in the minor leagues? This is why I say Alavila rushed him too much. It's funny how we sit there and say Alavila was terrible. Look at what he did. And I agree. There's a lot of bad things that he did, like the trades and stuff. They won with most of his guys a year ago, but we don't want to accept the fact that he could have rushed Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green. Riley Green's a better hitter. He's a better player. But I would ask you what the prerequisite is. The number of minor league at-bats that Spencer Torkelson got was 788. And most people would tell you, most people who play the game would tell you, you need a lot more than that. Example, do you know how many at-bats Mike Trout had in his minor league career? He had close to 1,200. Now, again, it comes off like I'm making excuses. I'm just bringing up certain facts. Mike Trout, and he struggled his first year. Barry Bonds struggled as a rookie. You get 1,700 at bats in the minor leagues, 1,500 at bats in the minor leagues, and you're getting only 788, and you're being rushed to the major leagues. You're not ready. That can set you aside. Now, in fairness to anyone who would argue that, the next year he thrived. Last year he was terrible. I ask people this all the time. Be honest. Who is he? Is he the guy you saw in 2023, or is he the guy you saw in 2024?
Shep, I'm, you know me, I am an exception to the rule type of guy. If you're this much of the time and you're that the other part of the time, that kind of tells me that this was an exception to an overall rule. And I'll just speak for me. I'm not saying get rid of the guy. You know who he is? I think he's a guy that is fighting for a roster spot. Like really. And he's going to have to do a lot. He's going to have to do a lot to have some kind of role on this baseball team. And he's earned that. He really has. He's earned that by his ineffectiveness.
Yeah. No doubt. I mean, again, the inconsistency is what I would agree with. When you say, like, so if Bill said, when I said how many at bats, he says between 600 and 800. No way. No way. I mean, every person who's associated with Major League Baseball, are there exceptions? Absolutely. Bobby Witt comes in, look at how great he is. Every person would say, you need at least 1,500 ABs in the majors for you to get, for people to get a gauge on how you are. And he's approaching that, by the way. 600 to 800. What you're telling me, Bill, is that 1 year you're going to guess on what he's going to be, because 600 ABs in 1 year is pretty typical for a guy who plays every day. Really, it's probably more than that if you're playing every day. 600 ABs, no way. You can't judge a player off that. It's impossible.
All right, let me hammer this out. Hey, look, when it's time to get yourself a house, whether you're buying, selling, oftentimes both, you need to contact the right agent. Who do we recommend? This lady right there, Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that's why you need a pro. And that's exactly what Lindsay is. Lindsay grew up on the main streets of Northville. She's expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan, an expert in all facets of the business. So when it's time to make your move, Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She'll help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. My boy Gordy chimed in. If the Tigers are going to go where they want to go, they need production from Torque. Let's hope he gets it together. You know what, Shep, let me throw this out there because I can't believe we just did a half hour. Your thoughts on the finale of Four Nations? I'm sorry. I've seen that script before. I said it all week. I probably said it to you. This reminded me so much of the 2010 Olympics. It really did. It reminded me so much of the 2010 Olympics where the Americans got the W in the prelims. And when it counted, Canada found a way. Jordan Binnington found a way. And what was amazing to me was how bad Connor McDavid was that game. He really did not have a good game. He said as much. And then, of course, Austin Matthews, what the hell are you doing? I think you learned that at 7 years old.
I'm glad you said that because, first of all, I thought Austin Matthews played pretty well in the game until that moment.
He sure did.
But I was very hesitant to judge him because I looked at it as a football play. Let me explain real quick. Oftentimes we see guys throw interceptions, and I say, how do we know it's always on the quarterback? Sometimes the receiver's running the wrong route. Sometimes he's reading the safety, the corner, the coverage, differently than the quarterback.
Hey, Eric.
It's not always on that, right? Was it Austin Matthews' responsibility in the slot, 20 feet away? Why was he going toward where the puck was? What could possibly be going through his mind? That's what I wanted to know.
Shep, you learn this, and I think anybody out there would tell you, okay, especially in the attacking zone, you lose the draw, you peel off, and you go take the center. Especially in the attacking zone. That you learn that. You ask Murph, even though Murph played defense and he was never touching the puck on that 3-on-1 against Russia in 1987. Literally, you peel off, you go take that center. That's your check. I know a lot of people are looking at what Adam Fox did. That didn't help the situation. But the second you lose the draw, that man is your responsibility. That period, end of story. You have to stick on him like glue. That's your guy. And that was mind-boggling to me. Shep, and I'm not lying. I knew 2 seconds before that goal happened that goal was going to happen because of it. You know, when you peel off, not just anybody, you peel off, in my mind, the undisputed best player in the world. When you peel off that guy, as opposed to getting him like white on rice, it was like, oh my gosh. And as David said, I don't want to detract from Binnington. Binnington 2019 in the Stanley Cup Finals when he hypnotized the Bruins and everything. But that play has been so debated, and honest to goodness, it isn't as complicated as you think. Peel off, lose the draw. Okay, I lost the draw. That's bad. I have to take him now. That guy is 1,000% my responsibility.
Yeah, first of all, I loved the tournament. You and I have both talked about it. Absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic for the sport. I love the fact that, it was getting a ton of notoriety from people outside of hockey. Charles Barkley wearing a jersey on the TNT set. J.J. Watt tweeting about it. And of course, he played some hockey when he was younger, but still, the point is you're getting high-profile personalities in other sports paying attention to that, right? President calling them during the day, wishing them well, and all these different things. Dylan Larkin, to me, showed something. And Bill brought it up before I could get it out there, and it was a really good one. It brings up a good point. Dylan Larkin really raised, I think, his stock,
No question.
and not just for his play, but because of his leadership.
Mm-hmm.
What he said afterwards, Sean, and you would know this better than I would. The Canadian players, they buy into the World Championships. The American players don't. And in case people missed it, Dylan Larkin said, "I hope other American players take note of this. I hope they want to be part of this because this was special, and I hope the same thing for all the American players, but the National Hockey League." And I was really encouraged that there was word that spread what they're going to do now is what you and I were talking about before. I don't know if they're going to forget the All-Star game, but forget that. I would. Every 2 years, they're going to play the World Cup of Hockey. And then you're going to get the Olympics. So I think that's a beautiful way to handle it. And that's how your league, listen, dude, that's how your league goes from here to there. Because as PK Subban said it, and you can say what you want about PK Subban, but he is a vocal supporter of the league, the players, how it's played, all that other stuff. People may think he's flashy because he's got the fur coat and everything. Listen, thank God there's no Barry Melrose, okay? And you got to have somebody who's willing to squawk a little bit because Mark Messier is too professional to do it. So what he said is, listen, we give fans their money's worth. We're playing through injury and we play hurt. There's a huge difference. We take it serious that it's a responsibility to give the fans what they've asked for. That sport needs more people vocally willing to defend it like he does instead of always being Mr. Nice Guy. Period.
To that point, let me bring this up about Dylan Larkin, and I don't take this as a shot. Don't take this as a shot. I know somebody's going to hear this and take it as a shot, but I don't care. I wonder if Dylan Larkin would feel the same way about the World Championship if he was in the playoffs year in and year out. That's the only difficult problem with the World Championship, Shep. It's easy for a guy to say whose season is over in the second week of April. It's easy for a guy to say, you guys should all be there, okay? What about the guy that just got done with 2 back-to-back war series? It's May 10th, and you just played, I pick a number, 11 playoff games. I mean, and you got your ass kicked, and the World Championship has already started, and now you're being asked, well, I got to jump on the plane and fly to Stockholm while we've already had a week of the tournament start.
I am floored that you've got that opinion.
No, but
why was it okay for Gretzky and Messier and players like that? They could do it. Let me bring up another sport. Michael Jordan played in every freaking game and All-Star game and playoff game and NBA Finals. And you know how I feel about him, okay? And then he went on to play in the Olympics. LeBron James, not that I'm a huge fan by any stretch. He's played a lot of games, okay? He's playing in the Olympics. I mean, I don't buy that. I'm talking
the World Championship. Those guys are playing. Dylan Larkin has never been in the playoffs. Those guys are playing. Matthew Tkachuk is playing in the playoffs.
I truly believe he would.
Wayne Gretzky is playing. Well, it depends. What time of the year does your season end? You know, are you ending 2 weeks into the tournament? If you're ending 2 weeks into the tournament, maybe you fly over at that point in time. I don't know. You know, I'm just picking off the top of my head. Let's say it's May 10th, and you just went through back-to-back wars, and there's only three games left. You know, and are you flying over? So I think that's one thing in my mind Dylan Larkin should have taken advantage of, because if I'm Matthew Tkachuk, you know Matthew Tkachuk would be there. But Matthew Tkachuk can't be there because he's been in the playoffs the last 2 years. So I kind of felt like, all right, well, you're kind of talking out of a lack of experience there, because he hasn't been to the playoff. A lot of those guys, Shep, that want to go, and you know the Tkachuk brothers would go. Well, they can't go. Well, Brady can, but Matthew can't. The last 2 years, I mean, he's playing until the third week of June, for goodness sake. You know, so that, like I said, not a shot, but I don't think he was maybe thinking about it from a perspective that he has yet to live. Does that make sense?
It does, but I still think if he had the opportunity, that he would go. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I get that. Somebody said, what do you think about the Eagles? I think it was Bill. What do you think about the Eagles turning down the White House visit? I don't know where that story came from. I know it's going all over the place. I just pulled up multiple things because there have been conflicting reports. This is from NBC Sports. The Eagles will visit the White House if invited. This is from CNN. The Eagles would be honored to visit the White House to celebrate Super Bowl win. This is from Fox. Eagles will accept White House visit as soon as Trump extends it. Newsweek, Philadelphia Eagles would accept. New York Post, Eagles would be, quote, honored to visit the White House as they await the invite. Unfortunately, these are the times that we live in. You get conflicting reports. What's real? What's not? I don't know. But I'm telling you, that's the latest that I've seen. And there's a reason. I hope you guys paid attention. There's a reason I brought up CNN. See how as I stick out my left arm, and Fox as I stick out my right arm. So that's kind of what it is. But
Good work.
no,
Good work on that.
Shep, I get what Larkin is saying, and he's not wrong. Larkin can't speak from experience there, though. He hasn't had that playoff run. He does like if he.
No,
if,
but it is a mindset. It is a mindset,
Oh,
Sean, that
it's
has
so
to be
sure.
cleared. Okay, I don't think he's talking about anybody on his team.
Bill, I wasn't taking a shot at you, by the way. Bill said I'm a disinformation machine. I'm not, dude. I hope you know that. Unfortunately, there have been so many reports out there. I'm not taking a shot at you. I hope you know that.
I don't think anybody who knows you assumes that. I just think what Dylan Larkin's doing is he's basically telling anybody who will listen, dude, this is what it's all about.
If you can go.
Yes.
If you can go, sure. And I see,
and they've had a problem with that.
I have no problem with that. If you can go, but he also, I think a lot of times, and this is where I think the average hockey fan, there's a reason why the World Championship is back page news. There's a reason why because you're talking about some of the best players in the world still involved in the Stanley Cup playoff. And that's why the World Championship is back page news a lot of times. Well, you know what I mean?
It's also back page news because it's hockey, because the NHL doesn't do a good job of marketing its programs.
No, isn't that the truth? My goodness gracious, isn't that the truth? Yeah. So, Bill, to get back to that, I read those same things. Shep, honestly, I don't care. If you don't want to go to the White House, don't go to the White House. My day isn't going to change one way or another. I
think personally, I think it's a bad look, but if you don't want to go, then not every player has to go.
Do you think Stafford ends up leaving the Rams? I mean, when you're telling people you can explore your options and everything, I think that's their way of patting you on the butt. You think he goes?
I do. What do you think they get for him, and how much is he going to want? He wants more money, reportedly. So he's due $27 million by the Rams. He says, he wants almost twice that. Would you pay $50 million for him? Because I wouldn't.
No way. Not at this point in time. Not at this point.
And where's that best fit? Raiders would probably be a really good fit for him under Pete Carroll. He would be. That'd be a good fit.
Oh, I'm not arguing.
You've got Pittsburgh in the mix. I would guess the Giants would be in the mix. I would guess a team like Tennessee. I don't know everybody's payroll.
Could you tell Brock Purdy to go pound sand at this point in time and say we're handing the reins over to Matthew Stafford for the last 2 years?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. They're going to sign him to a new deal.
I think they are too. Yeah. I do. I think they are too. I mean, which is amazing.
I think the Raiders would make the most sense with a veteran coach who feels like they might be able to, not that they would win now, but feels like that they could make a drastic improvement. He can still play. Everybody knows that. I don't know how, their weapons are limited. You love their tight ends, but outside of that, I'm not sure it's all that great.
I'm going to give Aaron Rodgers a shot too. I mean, that's the crazy thing.
Yeah. Well, Sean, doesn't that tell you about the state of quarterbacking in the National Football League, right? Mm-hmm. And I got to be honest with you. I mean, we've talked about this a little bit. I mean, I don't know if it's Abdul Carter who's going to go number one or Cam Ward, but Cam Ward's probably going to the top three. I would be scared if I were a team drafting.
A couple of people brought up Minnesota. I think they're going to JJ. Just one man's opinion. I think they're going to JJ.
But I read that he had some complications with his knee surgery.
Ooh, well, then all bets are off.
So that could be different.
Yeah.
I bet he would thrive with Kevin
Did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to help with their home and auto insurance? Our friends at Legacy are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. They provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made. Did I mention they're great guys? They're also hockey fans. You know that? Come on, that's an added bonus. They ask the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you. And yes, help save you money. Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're paying too much and you could be underinsured. It is amazing, guys. That's not the kind of stuff that we stay on top of. That's what was going on with my family. We lived it. What are you waiting for? Give Legacy a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Call them today, 586-209-4106. That's 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quote. I don't know if you know this, but Matt Shepard once called Michigan basketball. Shep, what was your take on the Michigan State-Michigan game Friday?
It wasn't totally surprising because I thought, I've said this on my show for a long time, where people are questioning Michigan State. And I've said, it's funny how quickly we change gears. They rebound. They're an elite defensive team, and they rebound the hell out of the basketball. And then people will say, yeah, they don't have a go-to guy. So a buddy of mine who's a state grad the other night said they don't have a go-to guy. And I said, why do they have to have a go-to guy? Why can't they have a number of guys?
Were you talking to me? Because that I was like, who's there? No. That's been my thing all year. I'm like, somebody step them and become the alpha. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I love that they spread it around. There's certain guys, like I'm not a huge fiddler guy, but whatever. I love. I mean, Trey Holloman the other day was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
He was fantastic, not just because of the threes, the assists, the rebounds from the guard position, all that other stuff. I think they're a really tough team. I don't know what they have to do to prove to people they're a really good basketball team that should scare us. That would scare somebody. What do you think is the most important thing for any team when you get to the NCAA tournament? Many people,
Go ahead.
Many people would say guard play.
Yeah.
Okay.
To me, take care of the ball. It goes hand in hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michigan turns it over a lot. They turn it over more than MSU does.
Yep.
Look, I think you got to make some threes. I don't question that. But, they shot really well the other day. Not a huge fan of, if you're a bad three-point shooting team, why do you keep shooting them? But they have different ways they can get to you. They can run it on you. They can half-court you. They're going to defend you like a son of a bitch. I think they're a really good basketball team. It didn't surprise me all that much. I'm slightly surprised with Michigan's inability to make shots, and that's been going on for the last few games. But overall, two good teams going at it.
Yeah.
How about you?
No, it's fun to me. I felt the other way. I like, honestly, I thought that Michigan, we talked about it. I thought that Michigan was a bad matchup for Michigan State. I thought that they were going to present some problems, and a lot of those problems presented themselves in the first half. And then the second half, they ran away and hid from them. As Bill said, that scoring spurt by Holloman was huge. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, it was nice to see that in the second half. I don't care what anybody says, and you guys know what side of the fence I sit on. Life is better when you have two good Michigan and Michigan State teams. I'm
100%.
sorry. It doesn't mean as much. I was talking to somebody today, and I said, I'm not going to tell you who, but I said, hey, I'm not trying to be a dick. 2014 wasn't fun for me. Like when Michigan State took you out to the woodshed and then just for good measure scored one more touchdown late. It means more when you beat a good team, right? That's the way I've always felt, but
yeah, I feel the same way. There's an electricity. There's a reason John Beilein thinks it's the best. He would argue it's the best rivalry in college basketball. I don't know if I'd go quite that far, but the passion is seemingly always there when you go to the Breslin Center. I've gone to plenty of games at the Breslin Center, just like you have. It is a special place. I think it's the second, some would argue the third, but the second loudest place. I think Mackey's the loudest in the Big Ten. Assembly Hall at Indiana gets really loud, but Breslin Center's consistently. Michigan gets loud when MSU is there, especially. And I think there's something special about that brings out the best. I always found it interesting. I would ask players who were not from the state, if they truly appreciated and understood the rivalry.
Yeah.
It probably took them a game to understand it. Like, you can read about it, you can talk about it, you could say, oh, this is the guy that I like. Well, this whole bullcrap of Will Howard, who transfers from Kansas State, goes to Ohio State, says, I hate Michigan. Shut up, dude. I mean, you played them once in your career, right?
Yeah.
Michigan State, they hear about it all the time, but it's a really healthy rivalry. And I would argue it's not just basketball or football. The hockey rivalries, it might be the most intense of all of it.
Been
right?
that way forever. Yeah.
It's just special. And when they're two good teams, you feel that a little bit more. There's something about it, man. Sometimes it's hard to describe, Sean, but when you walk into the building and or when you're walking into the building and you got fans lined up, I'll never forget. I'm walking into the Breslin Center one time, and I go through the line of students that are outside. I'm like, hey guys, how you doing? Enjoy the game tonight. They're like, F you, Shep, because I was calling it for Michigan. And I said, I get it. I totally get it. I mean, I love that you love your team. Yeah. I don't know why you got to take it out on me. I'm just calling the game for crying out. But I get it, right? Yeah. It's fun in that regard. It really is.
UNC Duke would like a word with Beeline. Hey, remember when we were kids? There was a couple year span where like Georgetown and St. John was can't miss television.
Yes. Yeah, good one.
That's like it really was. It was just like Shep. I remember. Oh my gosh, Chris Mullen and Patrick Ewing. I can't turn like it was. Big Monday. Oh my gosh, that's on this week. Man, you're not staying up to watch that game.
Sean, that's a really good one. Of all the college rivalries, how many have there been?
Oh, geez.
It's like Syracuse back in the day. Syracuse had a really good one with Georgetown, didn't
Yes, that was unbelievable.
Is there a rivalry in the SEC or what was then the Pac-12 or even the Big 8/Big 12 that comes to mind and you go, oh my God, you know what? That is intense. I don't think I can come up with one.
No.
That really screams. Like in football, we used to say it, right? Used to say the Red River Shootout. Absolutely. There's nothing like that in Big 12 basketball.
Okay, I'm going to try to be a different guy. How about UCLA, Arizona for a little bit? Like when Lute was there, I'm probably trying to fit it a size 12 foot into an 11 shoe, but just for the sake of argument, I'll kind of throw that out there.
Okay, I was going to say Kansas against maybe Kansas State, maybe Iowa State. I don't know. I think I'm reaching there, though.
Yeah.
I think I'm reaching a little bit.
That's exactly it. All right, Shep, get out of here. The first star of the game, Matt Shepard. Poor guy, been sneezing all night. He saved it on air because he's a pro right there. Matt Shepard, Kingston boy, right there. Put it there, Shep. All right, Shep, have a good one. I got to tell you about All About Catering before we get out of here. All About Catering LLC, full service caterer. Graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for from 25 to 4,000 people. All About Catering can and will take care of you. Customer service and satisfaction is their number one goal. So don't sweat your next big event. Just go to allaboutcateringllc.com today to see their menus and all their 5-star reviews. Give them a call, 586-731-1398 to get your event started. So there you go. Fantastic. Shep.
Would you ever call a Michigan game? That's what Eric wants to know.
I don't know if you know this. This is a true story. And I don't know how often I've talked about this. When I was at WJR in 1998, Chuck Swirsky, are you familiar with his work? Asked me if I had any interest in doing pre and post and sideline reporting for the University of Michigan.
For football?
Yes.
Okay.
And I immediately said, no way in hell.
Really?
Mm-hmm. You have to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. Okay. Shep, I am a passion guy. I am. I openly admit it. I think my strength is passion. Okay. We all have our different strengths and weaknesses. I could never go in there. I didn't want to leave Toledo at the time. I could never go in there and fake it. And I think, I mean this in all sincerity, I think it would have been a disservice to even try. I did not grow up a Michigan fan. I've never been a Michigan fan. No, it wouldn't have worked. It would have put me in a bad spot. And I think it would have been a disservice to, the diehard fans out there. Because I don't care what anybody says. People would hear I'm not a fan. They would hear it,
Yeah.
Shep. I think people would pick up on that. So 1,000%.
People have asked me about that. I mean, now that I've been away from it, could you do MSU? I said, in a second.
Yeah. Well, you're a pro. I'm not. I mean, that's the difference between you and I. You're a pro.
That's not true. That's not true. But for me, I mean, yeah, in a heartbeat, I could do it. I tell this to people all the time. I don't know why Michigan State fans don't get it through their head. It's really unfortunate. It's an elite program. And when I think eliteness, I think of this. I think, what schools could win a national championship in football and basketball? And Michigan State and Michigan are two schools that could do it. I think there's a handful in the Big Ten, like Oregon now, of course, but Wisconsin, Ohio State, there's not that many out there. I want you to think about it. It could be a little bit of a homework assignment sometime. There's some SEC teams, but overall, how many teams in the country, legitimately now, could win a national championship in either football or basketball? Michigan State's in that conversation. I know their football program wasn't great last year, but eventually they're in that conversation. That is an elite job.
2013, I'll always just, gosh damn it, why couldn't the playoff be 1 year earlier? Why couldn't the playoff, that team could play with anybody that year, Shep? Anybody. Like, when we went to the Rose Bowl, people forget the national championship game was a week later, and we were kind of hanging out with some Auburn fans, and they were like, we all don't want nothing to do with your Michigan State, boy. That's secondary. Can I borrow a dip? That's secondary, something fierce. And I'm going, why does it have to be this year? Why can't the playoff be next year? My Aunt Jeannie chiming in. Great shot. Some people can fake it really well, really well. There's no doubt about that. So, Shep, feel better, dude. Stop sneezing.
Right. Thanks, buddy.
Great
to visit with you. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it as always. Thanks, everybody.
For the win. God bless you guys. See you. Bye.
Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Still Alive by Anti-Ghost. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.